several phenomenal teachers throughout my educational career, but particularly in high school. There was a gentleman, Coach K, was my wrestling coach and my math teacher. And I left high school knowing I wanted to do something like he did. He was so passionate, so kind, so caring. I applied and got into University of Laverne and pursued a math degree. And unfortunately, about halfway through college, I realized that math wasn't going to work for me as a major. I had a degree in PE, as well as 3 teaching credentials with a few more years of school. But immediately began teaching at a local middle school where I taught math, health, science, and PE. And working with one of my peers was Coach K, who was the math teacher right next door. And I coached swimming, wrestling, and soccer while I was at Covina. Found a mentor in one of the assistant principals who encouraged me to look into administration. And after 6 years of teaching, I became a middle school administrator to starting my doctorate and moving to Santiago High School in South Corona, where I was an assistant principal for 6 years. Completed my doctoral degree while I was at Santiago High School and got an opportunity to be the principal of the best high school in the Inland Empire at Lakeside High School back in the fall of 2011. Always having options. For those of you who heard me speak about my journey and more in depth, I talk about leaving high school with options, leaving college with options. I've got my bachelor's, I've got my master's, I've got my teaching credential, I've got my admin credential. It's my doctorate 10 years ago. I've just finished an academy to look into human resource. And not looking to go anywhere, but always having that option if and when I need it. I think it's really tough being a teenager and looking 6 months ahead, a year ahead, 4 years ahead, 6 years ahead. I do have a saying, life's too short for your job to suck. Stay passionate, pursue your dream, but don't be so single-minded that you can only do one thing upon exiting high school or only do one thing upon exiting college. You have to have those options. You've got to have the ability to change and morph as you grow and mature and your life circumstances change.
I will tell you that I'm getting ready to start my 24th year in education. And most of it was in the classroom. I taught for 17 years. I coached for about 19 years. The best place that I ever taught and the best place that I ever worked is right here at Lakeside. There were many steps involved and they weren't all straight up. After high school, I was able to attend Purdue University to begin with. And at 18 years old, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. I started out as a management major and quickly determined that that wasn't going to be for me. And while I was at Purdue for 3 years, I actually changed my major 2 more times. I had a realization that science was my passion, and I wanted to be able to share that passion with others, with students. And so I re-enrolled in a different college at that point. It took 3 more years at Indiana University, including 3 summers. If you think that the path to where you're going is straight and easy, for most of us, it wasn't. It involved many setbacks, a lot of part-time jobs, and a lot of time. I would say that my greatest mentor was probably my high school wrestling coach. He didn't necessarily talk about what he wanted us to do or what he thought we should do, but he really led by example. If I look back upon his influence and what he did for me and so many other students and athletes, I would have to say he was my greatest mentor. I can't think of anything better than spending my last days as an educator on this campus with these teachers, with these students.
I'm a product of the Valley. I grew up in a little south of here in Marietta. I graduated from Marietta Valley High School. My senior year, when I graduated, I got asked to be a basketball coach at where I went to school. That's where where I figured out my niche. I needed to be around kids. My journey is based around kids. And teachers are the backbone of our school. They are our spinal cord. They are our difference makers. And so for me, my journey is kind of taken off at Lakeside. Unfortunately, my background in education, my parents weren't big collegiate people. Graduate high school, get a job, and go. That's just the way it worked for my family. Well, I knew very quickly that if I wanted to go down the route that I am currently, that wasn't an option. I had to get into school, and so I took some junior college courses, transferred from there to University of Chapman, got my undergraduate. When I got into a credential program, I did that through Cal State San Marcos, and then ultimately got into national for my admin and master's. Well, basketball, it's a team sport. It's a well-oiled machine. You can have 5 guys on a court, and you could be horrible if they're not willing to work together. And when I transitioned from a player to a coach, I kind of took that same mentality. The same thing as an administrator. You figure out your weaknesses and your strengths, and you have teammates to lean on. And my teammates include my administrative team, but also my teammates are my teachers and my counselors. For me, the basketball or baseball or soccer, these group team sports, it teaches a lot more than just shoot the ball, kick the ball. It's that life skill. You're only going to learn by getting your head out there and getting in the middle of it and being involved. If you're sitting on the fence and you're sitting there wondering, jump in. It might hurt. You might get a little banged up. You might fail. But at the end of the day, it's the only way you're going to learn.
As a high school student, I was a pretty strong student, but not very motivated to look out past my high school experience. At that point, we had taken an aptitude test, and somewhere in my testing scores, I was set out to be a hairdresser or a nurse, and that's what I thought I was going to do. So I joined an ROP class for nursing, and I started in the medical field. My senior year, my Spanish teacher had asked me, so what high school are you, or what college are you going to, what university? And I told her, I don't know, I haven't applied, I'll do that next year. And she says, you're supposed to do that now. Now I'm thinking, I'm freaking out. And she says, well, let's see if we could get everything done for you. So we applied, we got accepted into a nursing program, and I applied for a position at Kaiser, and then I ended up becoming a medical assistant through schooling. And then I realized that maybe that wasn't for me at the time. I started going to Cal Poly Pomona. Well, that turned into several English classes later and several Spanish classes later, and I double majored in English and Spanish. And then I thought, well, what am I going to do with this? My life has been a bunch of flukes so far, so I decided to get into teaching. And again, another fluke happens to come up. My principal from my high school calls me up and says, I hear that you're ready to be a teacher. Want to come on board? Okay, so I did. Started teaching Spanish, ELD, English, and then from there, jumped around to a couple of districts and high schools, and got here to Lake Elsinore, where I had told my husband I'm never going to Lake Elsinore because he was raised here. I said, you pulled me out of Baldwin Park, I'm not going into Lake Elsinore, we're going somewhere neutral. But here we are. There are a lot of people around us that see what we don't see in us, and for whatever reasons they are, people are more likely to help push you forward than to hold you back. Usually the one that holds yourself back is you.
When I grew up in a home where my dad was in the military and my mom was a school teacher. So education and hard work was something that I was proud of. In high school, I started playing football, and I played football at my school. I also joined the wrestling team, and I was the heavyweight wrestler. I was the kind of student who could get A's and B's, but got B's and C's because I didn't have that push. I didn't have that support. I didn't have somebody back there telling me, hey, this is what you need to get done. Let me help guide you. High school, I regret a lot of things from high school, academically and even athletically, that I never tried out for the baseball team, and there's some other things I didn't do. After high school, I tried to go into junior college, really wasn't motivated. I actually got fired from a job when I was 20 years old. I was working at a gas station. It's the only time in my life I've ever been fired, but it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Because that night I went to a football game. My friend was coaching football at a high school in San Diego. He said, hey, if you ever have a Friday night, I'll come down and watch us play. So I got fired on a Friday, so I drove down to where they were playing, and I went to the game. At halftime, he walked me up to the snack bar, went to the snack bar, and he introduced me to their school police officer. And the guy knew me from wrestling. Somehow he remembered me from wrestling, and offered me a job right there on the spot as a campus supervisor at a high school in San Diego. And I jumped at it because it was a job. I just got fired that day, so hey, they're offering me a job the first day I'm unemployed. So I took the job, but the thing was with this job, in order to be able to do the job, you had to be a college student. So I had to enroll in college in order to take the job, so I did. And then a few months later, I got offered a job coaching football. At the school, they needed coaches, so they asked me to coach football. I got asked to coach baseball, and then I got asked to coach wrestling. So within a year, I'm coaching 3 sports, and I'm going to school full time. I finally found that carrot. Finally found that thing that got me motivated to be a good college student. PE major at San Diego State University, greatest school in the country. And I realized that now I was going from coaching 3 sports to coaching 2 sports, coaching 1 sport, and really want to spend more time with my kids. So I thought, what can I do where I can still be involved with athletics, be around the kids, be around the coaches, but not have to commit myself to being there all year long. The most natural step for me was to become an athletic director. I got a job as an athletic director at Colton High School up in Colton, California. So after 2 years there, the job opened at Heritage High School, which was just a few miles from my house. So I applied and I got hired at Heritage High School, and I was there for 5 years. And then some things changed there with regards to the job itself. So I was fortunate enough that I was able to come here. I've been here ever since. The kids have been awesome. They really do care about the school. They really do try. They really do everything they can to make themselves and our school successful. Coaches work hard. They do. They're accountable. They're professional. So it's been great. It's been a great experience. The more you're involved with your school, the better experience you're going to have. You're going to look back fondly on your experience in high school if you're doing things. Sports is one of those things that will really help kids have a rewarding and fun experience in high school.